I wore my twin sister's clothes, did her makeup, and walked up to her boyfriend to test him. And he immediately said I was way more fun than usual. By the end of the night, I hadn't caught him cheating. I had accidentally made him fall for me instead. And then my real sister walked through the gym doors in the exact same outfit. I want to be very clear that I had good intentions. That is the first thing I need you to understand before I tell you the rest of this story, because by the end of it, I'm going to sound like a supervillain. And I promise, I was trying to be a good sister. My name is Maya. I'm 15. I'm quiet. I sit in the third row of every class by the window because I like having a reason to look away from people. My twin sister Zoe is the other version of me. Same face, completely different person. She's loud in the best way. She laughs first in every room. She got cast as the lead in the 7th grade play while I was literally working the soundboard from a dark booth at the back of the auditorium. We are identical by biology and opposites by personality. And for the most part, that works fine. Zoe's boyfriend is Jake Reyes. He's in 10th grade, which is 1 year above us, which Zoe considers a personality trait. He's got this whole effortless thing going where he seems like he's only half paying attention to any conversation, and somehow that makes everyone want his full attention more. I personally found this annoying, but that might be relevant later. Here's the thing about Jake. For the 3 weeks leading up to the Westbrook High Fall Formal, that's our school's big October dance, held in the main gym, blue and gold streamers, a DJ who only plays songs from 2 years ago. I had been noticing things. Small things. The kind of things that feel crazy when you say them out loud, but feel completely undeniable when you're lying awake at 1 a.m. cataloging them. Specifically, Brianna Torres from Jake's AP history class had liked 4 of his Instagram posts in a row, all within the same hour. Jake had texted Zoe that he was stuck in practice on a Thursday, and I had personally witnessed him walking out of the school library at that exact time carrying absolutely nothing, definitely not in practice. And once, just once, I thought I heard him say a name on the phone outside our house. I couldn't make it out clearly. It might have been Zoe. It might not have been. Zoe didn't see any of this, or she saw it and decided not to see it, which is a Zoe thing. She leads with trust and figures out consequences later. I am the opposite. I lead with suspicion and spend consequences forever. So I made a plan, and the plan was, in retrospect, unhinged. But I want you to remember, good intentions. The fall formal was on a Friday night. Zoe had a dress, emerald green, short, with this little silver clasp at the shoulder. She'd had her hair done in loose waves that afternoon. She was going to arrive at 7. Jake was going to meet her there. I was planning to arrive at 7:15 as myself just to watch. Observe Jake, see if he acted suspicious, report back to Zoe if necessary. But then Zoe texted me at 6:45 from her friend Priya's house saying she'd be late. 45 minutes late. Her curling iron had malfunctioned and her hair was, quote, giving medieval torture device, not aesthetic. She said Jake knew, she'd texted him, and she'd be there by 8. I was standing in our shared bedroom holding this information. I was staring at the emerald green dress still hanging on the back of the closet door, because Zoe had grabbed a backup outfit from Priya's bag and was doing her hair there instead. I know exactly what you're thinking. And yes, that is exactly what I did. I told myself it was a controlled experiment. I would put on the dress, we're the same size, do my makeup like Zoe's, which mostly meant more mascara and the specific coral lip gloss she keeps on the 3rd shelf of our shared vanity. I would go to the dance. I would approach Jake before Zoe arrived. If he acted sketchy or flirted with someone in front of Zoe, I would have actual evidence. Then I would disappear before Zoe got there, change back into my own outfit in the bathroom, and she'd never have to know. Simple, contained, responsible even. I looked in the mirror before I left. Zoe looked back at me. The gym at Westbrook High smells like floor cleaner and desperation every day of the year. But on dance nights, they add fog machines and Christmas lights, and it becomes something else entirely. I walked in at 7:12. The DJ was playing something with too much bass. There were streamers everywhere. Mr. Castellano, our vice principal, was doing that thing chaperones do where they stand near the punch bowl looking deeply uncertain about every life decision that led them to this moment. I spotted Jake in under 4 minutes. He was near the bleachers with 2 guys from his friend group. Marcus and a kid everyone calls Shu for reasons nobody has ever explained to me. He was on his phone. He looked up when I walked over, and something shifted in his expression. Not in a bad way. More like the recalibrating. Hey, I said. I was trying to do Zoe's voice, which is my exact voice, but louder and more certain. He looked at me for a second longer than felt normal. Hey, you looked different. My stomach dropped. Different how? I don't know. Calmer? It's giving low-key energy. I kind of like it. That sentence should have been a red flag. It was, in fact, the entire thesis statement of everything that was about to go wrong. But I was so focused on watching for suspicious behavior that I filed it under weird compliment and kept going. We talked for a few minutes, the dance, the DJ's questionable set list. And I was starting to think maybe this was going fine. And then Marcus, who had been leaning against the bleachers doing absolutely nothing useful, suddenly squinted at me and said, "Wait, didn't you say you were doing something with the lit mag tonight?" I felt the floor drop out from under me. Because Zoe was not on the lit mag. I was on the lit mag, and I had absolutely no idea whether Marcus knew that or was just guessing or had somehow sensed that something was wrong, but my face had already done the thing where it goes very still when I'm panicking, which is unfortunately the opposite of what Zoe's face does. That fell through, I said, last minute. Marcus looked at me for one more second. Then he shrugged and went back to his phone. Cool. I breathed out through my nose very slowly and made a note to never do anything like this ever again. Jake hadn't seemed to notice the exchange, or he was being polite about noticing. Either way, he turned back to me and said, "You want to walk around? This spot is directly in front of a speaker, and I've lost partial hearing in my right ear." We walked. And here's the thing. Here's the part that started messing with my head. The conversation got actually really good. Jake, when he's not doing the effortlessly unattentive thing, is kind of interesting. We talked about the new astronomy unit in Miss Frederick's science class, which Jake had apparently found genuinely fascinating. We talked about how the DJ had now played the same song twice in 40 minutes. At some point, he asked me what I'd been reading lately. And I said the first thing that came to mind, which was a book about migratory birds that I had actually been reading. Not a book Zoe would have mentioned. Instead of that being suspicious, he just said, "Wait, actually? That sounds kind of incredible." I was supposed to be gathering evidence. Instead, I was having the best conversation I'd had with a non-family member human being in maybe 3 months. And then, right in the middle of it, Jake's expression changed. Just slightly. A small adjustment around the eyes. And he said, "Hey, can I ask you something? When's the last time you talked to Priya?" My brain went white, because I did not know the answer to that question. I did not know whether Zoe had talked to Priya yesterday or this morning or 10 minutes ago when she was currently at Priya's house. I did not know if there was something specific that had happened between them that Jake knew about. I had no idea what the correct Zoe answer was. So I did the only thing I could do. I turned it back on him. "Why?" I said, like I meant it. Like I was waiting to see if his version matched mine. He blinked. "I don't know. She seemed kind of off at school yesterday, that's all. I wondered if you'd noticed." "Yeah," I said, very carefully. "I noticed." He nodded. "Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure." And then he moved on. Back to the astronomy thing, and I nodded along and kept my face absolutely neutral until the thundering in my chest slowed back down to something like normal. But the narrow escape sat in me like a stone. I was running out of luck. I needed to leave. And then he said it. "Can I tell you something? You seem, I don't know, more like yourself tonight. Like less performing." I felt my face do something I couldn't control. Because that sentence, "more like yourself," was the most accidentally accurate thing he could have said. And for a completely wrong reason. And I was now standing in my sister's dress having a crisis. "More like myself," I repeated. "Yeah, I mean," he kind of shrugged. "Don't take it weird, I like this version." Okay, so here is where the story shifts from romantic comedy with mildly criminal undertones into something else entirely. Here is what I realized, standing there under the Westbrook High gym lights in my sister's emerald dress. I had not caught Jake doing anything wrong. He hadn't flirted with Brianna Torres. He hadn't been texting anyone suspicious. He had spent 45 minutes talking to who he thought was his girlfriend and had said clearly that he preferred a version of her that was me, which meant one of two things. Either Jake was a genuinely kind person who had no idea what was happening, and I had just accidentally built something with him that had nothing to do with the mission I'd come here for. Or Jake had actually liked a quieter, more real version of Zoe this whole time, and the real Zoe had never shown him that. Both options made me feel terrible. The second one made me want to sit down on the gym floor. I checked my phone. 7:58 p.m. Zoe would be here in 2 minutes. The panic was physical. My hands went cold. I could feel my pulse in my ears. I said, "Hey, I have to bathroom. 1 second. Jake said, "I'll be here." And I was halfway to the gym doors when they opened. Zoe walked in at 8:01 in an emerald green dress. Priya's backup outfit apparently had not worked out. She'd done her own hair after all, also in loose waves. The silver clasp at the shoulder was a different one. She'd borrowed Priya's. But from more than 10 feet away, in fog machine mist and string lights, we were the same person in the same dress at the same dance. We saw each other at exactly the same moment. Zoe's face did something I've never seen her face do before. It went through approximately 9 emotions in under 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, disbelief, fury, hurt, confusion again, and then something that landed closer to an unhinged laugh than anything else. "Maya," she said. Not a question. "I can explain. You're wearing my dress. Technically, I was here first. You are wearing my dress at my dance with my boyfriend? I was trying to protect you." Zoe stared at me. The DJ dropped a beat. 2 freshmen near the snack table were absolutely watching us. I didn't blame them. We were 2 identical girls in the same outfit having an argument in a fog machine. This was objectively compelling. And then Jake appeared at my shoulder because of course he did. I watched him look at me, then at Zoe, then back at me, then back at Zoe. I watched his brain try to assemble this information into something that made sense. It clearly wasn't working. "What?" he said. Not a question, just the word, dropped into the space between us like a stone. Zoe pointed at me. "That's Maya, my twin. She's been pretending to be me." Jake looked at me. "You're Maya." "I'm Maya." A pause. "You told me about the migratory bird book." "Yes. That was you. That was me." He nodded slowly, and I watched his face in a way I hadn't let myself watch it before, because I'd been too busy monitoring him for wrongdoing to actually look at him as a person. What I saw wasn't anger. It wasn't even accusation. It was something quieter and harder to name, like someone finding out that a door they'd been leaning against wasn't load-bearing and having to recalculate their whole stance. He looked at Zoe. He looked back at me. He said quietly, "The whole conversation, the astronomy stuff, the book, that was all you." "Yes." "And you were?" "That's why you felt nervous the whole time. You weren't performing anything. You were scared of getting caught." He said it without cruelty, just like someone understanding the geometry of a thing. Then I asked about Priya, and you didn't know the answer. I went very still. "No." "I knew," he said. "I knew right then. I wasn't sure, but I knew." He looked away, somewhere above both our heads. I just didn't want to stop the conversation. That was the sentence that rearranged something in me permanently. He ran a hand through his hair. I need to think. He looked at Zoe, and there was something there. Something unresolved and honest and a little frightened. "Can we talk? Like, actually talk?" Zoe looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at me, and I recognized the look. It was the one that meant she was deciding something, and it was going to take longer than the next 10 seconds to land correctly. "Give me 1 minute," she said to Jake, and she grabbed my arm and pulled me 3 feet to the left. "You," she said, low voice, precise, "are going to explain every single thing, right now." So I did. Standing in the mist at the edge of the Westbrook High dance floor, I told her everything. The Instagram likes, the Thursday library sighting. I saw him, Zoe. He wasn't in practice. He was at school doing nothing, and you deserve to know that. The phone call where I thought I heard a name and couldn't make out what it was. I told her I thought I was protecting her. I told her I had not expected any of it to go the way it went. I told her I was sorry, which I meant completely and which felt wildly insufficient given the circumstances. Zoe listened. She's a good listener when she's not talking, which people forget because she's usually talking. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. So you were spying on my boyfriend, in my dress? Yes. And he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. She was quiet again. Then, the library thing, on Thursday. Yeah. He texted me he was stuck in practice. She said it evenly, factually, like she was taking inventory. And you saw him at school. I did. Okay. She looked away, just briefly, just enough. I'm going to ask him about that. Zoe, not angry. I'm just going to ask. She turned back to me, and there was something in her face that was past the fury now. Something that was almost thoughtful. He said he liked the quieter version of me. Yeah. I've been loud around him on purpose, because I thought that's what he wanted. She picked at the silver clasp on her shoulder. Priya's clasp, I noticed, slightly wrong for the dress. I thought he liked the version of me that talks the most. I didn't know what to say. There was something in that admission that made my chest feel strange. Like I'd been trying to find a crack in the wall, and instead I'd found a window, and the view from it was something I hadn't prepared for. Go change, she said. You look weird in coral lip gloss, by the way. It's not your undertone. I went and changed in the second floor bathroom, which smells aggressively like the pumpkin spice air freshener that someone from student council installed without permission in September. I put on my jeans and the blue hoodie. I looked in the mirror and I looked like myself again. That was both a relief and somehow also a loss. I didn't entirely understand that feeling. I came back down. Zoe and Jake were talking by the bleachers. Not fighting. Talking. Really talking. I could see it from across the room. She was doing the thing she does when she's actually nervous, pulling at the sleeve of her dress slightly, which only happens when she's not performing. He was leaning forward, which only happens when he's actually paying attention. I stood there for a moment, and I thought I could leave. Walk out, go home, let this finish without me. That would be the clean thing. The safe thing. But I had created this mess, and the mess was still unresolved, and there was one thing left I could actually do. I went and found Marcus. Hey, I said. When you asked about the lit mag earlier, do you actually know which of us is which? Marcus looked up from his phone. He had the specific expression of someone who has been watching a situation develop with great interest while pretending not to. I knew you weren't Zoe about 30 seconds after you walked over. Zoe's never read anything with birds in it. She thinks nature is the location, not a subject. You covered for me. I gave you one sentence and then minded my business, he said. That's not covering, that's mercy. He glanced across the gym to where Zoe and Jake were still talking. They good? I don't know yet. He nodded. She'll be fine. She's the one who deals with things. You're the one who thinks about them too much. I looked at him. You know us pretty well. You two are the same person in different fonts, he said. It's not hard. I absorbed that and went back to watching. After a few minutes, I crossed the gym. Not to interrupt, just close enough. Jake saw me first. He stood up slightly and said, Hey, Maya. Using my name, on purpose. Hey, I said. There was a moment where nobody said anything. Then Jake said, For the record, the Thursday practice thing. I was at school. I wasn't practicing, he paused. I was in the library trying to find a book to give Zoe for her birthday, and I'd already told her I had practice, so I kept the story because I didn't want to ruin the surprise. He looked at Zoe. I should have told you the whole thing was me being an idiot about a present. Zoe looked at him for a long moment. What book? Poems. There's this anthology you mentioned once at dinner at my mom's. I remembered the title wrong, so it took me 3 weeks to actually track it down. Zoe said nothing for a moment. Then she said, You've been holding a fake lie about a real present for 3 weeks. When you say it like that, that's genuinely the most you thing I've ever heard. Something in the space between them shifted. Not all the way fixed, but shifted. I said, I'm sorry, to both of you. What I did was chaotic, Jake offered. Deeply chaotic, I agreed. I thought I was protecting her, and instead I just made everything harder and weirder, and I'm sorry. Jake looked at me, and it was the first time that night he was looking at me as myself. Not as Zoe, not as the voice that talked about astronomy and birds, but as a separate person who had done a strange thing and meant well and was now living in the aftermath of it. The bird book, he said. Is it actually good? I blinked. Yeah, it's really good. Can you write down the title? I want to read it. I didn't know what to do with that. I wrote it on the back of a receipt I found in my hoodie pocket. I am a person who keeps receipts in hoodie pockets. And handed it to him. He folded it carefully and put it in his jacket. Zoe watched this exchange. Then she looked at me with an expression that contained multitudes. The primary one being, You are so lucky I love you. And the secondary one being, We will discuss this at length at home. I understood both. I went and sat back down next to Marcus and Shu on the bleachers. Shu had been watching something on his phone with earbuds in for the past 20 minutes and had apparently missed the entire confrontation, which honestly seemed like the right call. Marcus said, So you're the bird book one. I'm the bird book one. He nodded like this was fully acceptable information. I appreciated that. The rest of the formal was just a formal. The DJ played the song again. Mr. Castellano eventually moved away from the punch bowl toward the snack table, which meant he was expanding his perimeter. Zoe and Jake danced once, and I could see from across the gym that they were talking while they did it. Low voices, close together, which is different from pretending everything is fine. It wasn't resolved in one night. I don't want to tell you it was. What I can tell you is that Zoe came home at 11:15 and sat on the edge of my bed without turning on the light. And she said, He kept the practice lie because he's bad at surprises, and not because he's bad at being honest. I know, I said. I figured. I still want to know about the phone thing. The name you thought you heard. I don't know what it was. I couldn't make it out. She was quiet. I'm going to ask him. Okay. Not because I think it's something. Just because I'm going to be the kind of person who asks. That's good, I said. That's really good, actually. She sat there another minute. Then she said, he liked talking to you. I didn't say anything. He said, and I'm quoting because I want to be precise. He said she seemed like someone who's thought really carefully about what she actually believes and doesn't say it enough. Zoe paused. He said it like it was a compliment toward you, not like a complaint about me. My chest did the strange thing again. He also said he should have clocked it earlier because Zoe Reyes wouldn't have been nervous for 30 seconds, let alone 45 minutes. She said it with something close to pride. He knows me. He does, I said. She stood up. You're annoying. I love you. Don't do this again. I won't. And the coral is genuinely not your color. I'm going to find you a berry tint. It'll change your life. She left. I lay in the dark. Here is what I keep coming back to when I'm in the third row by the window in Miss Fredericks's class and the migratory bird unit is still on the board. I went to that dance to find out something about Jake, and the things I actually found were scattered all over the map. The Brianna Torres situation resolved itself fast. She'd been liking his posts because Jake had been recommending books, and Brianna runs a student book blog. She and I are actually mutuals now, which is maybe the tidiest ending in this whole story. The Thursday library thing turned out to be poems and a bad cover story about a birthday present. The phone name I couldn't make out? Zoe asked him. He said he'd been on a call with his cousin Marisol, who lives in another state because she was having a hard time. He apologized for taking it outside instead of explaining. Zoe said she wasn't upset, she just wanted to know. That was it. That was all it was. 3 things I noticed. 3 things I cataloged in the dark at 1 a.m. 3 things that added up to, he's not a bad boyfriend, he's just a person. And people are confusing even when they're not doing anything wrong. I'm still the girl in the third row. I still prefer the soundboard to the stage. But I've been talking more in class lately. Miss Frederick said she was glad to hear my perspective, and I think she meant it. And yes, Zoe bought me a berry-tinted lip gloss as a peace offering. I said she didn't have to. She said it wasn't for me, it was for her. Because she couldn't keep watching me steal her coral. I said I had only done it once. She said once was a pattern in progress. We agreed to disagree. The moral of the story is, actually, I don't think there's a clean moral. Sometimes you do a chaotic thing for a good reason, and the universe hands you a slightly different lesson than you asked for. Sometimes the suspect is innocent, and the mystery is just people being imperfect and trying to figure each other out. Sometimes you're in the wrong dress, in the wrong room, talking to the wrong person, and you learn something true anyway. You just have to know your undertone.